If you haven't heard about the NAR Commission lawsuit or the National Association of Realtors lawsuit that's in the news with the media just spilling out all this misleading information, most people don't know it's misleading. This is the biggest issue we have right now. If you're considering selling a home in 2024 or you're considering buying a home in 2024, I would advise you to watch this entire video to learn how it affects both buyers and sellers alike moving forward once we get into about July or August of this summer, which is 2024, and how it's going to affect both buyers and sellers in good ways and in bad ways, how it's going to affect the brokerages, the real estate agents moving forward on how we conduct our business with our clients. So what is this NAR Commission lawsuit all about? Let's keep it short. Basically, there's a class action lawsuit against the National Association of Realtors and a handful of big real estate brokerages, I believe over Missouri or somewhere in a different section of the United States, that they were fixing the commission rates where it was 6% commission, only 6% commission, and there were no other options. And basically they were telling sellers, when you list a home, you have to pay 6% commission, otherwise you won't be able to sell your home. Is the short end of the story, is the way I want to put it to you. Commissions have never been fixed. They have never been set. There is no standard commission. Commissions have and always will be negotiable with the seller when listing a home with a listing agent. To keep it short and simple, when you go out on a listing appointment, so if I meet a seller, we are going to negotiate for the highest commission possible out of that seller. But I'm here to tell you that getting a 6% commission or listing commission is very hard to do. A lot of times it's 5%, 4.5%, 4% total. Those numbers then get split either 50-50 or evenly with the buyer's brokerage. Sometimes you take a 5% commission and you may give the buyer's brokerage 2.25% and the listing brokerage keeps 2.75%. I've seen a lot of listings where I've taken personally. I've done 4% commission, total commission with the seller. I've taken 1.5% on the listing side, and I've given 2.5% to the buyer's side when there's a buyer's agent involved. So again, there has never been a set or fixed commission rate that sellers must agree to when listing or selling a home here in the United States. Now, I'm sure that brokerages in certain areas that maybe they're large brokerages and there's no competition, is there a possibility that the brokers for those companies tell their agents, you're only allowed to take a 6% commission, don't give in, don't lower the value of your service, etc. That is a very good possibility. But again, commissions have never been set in stone. They've always been negotiable. So if you're looking to sell a home and a listing agent tells you you have to pay this much commission, you do not have to. But listen to the agent's information, why they're trying to charge you that percentage. And at the end of the day, I think you'll understand why we charge or we try to get 5%, 6%, even though 6% really doesn't happen. I can't tell you the last time I got a 6% commission. But without me rambling on, best thing to do, commission is negotiable. So with this whole NAR lawsuit, what can we expect and what changes do we see as real estate professionals moving forward in 2024 and beyond? Number one, let's start off with how we used to do business. In the good old days when a broker gets a listing, so it's a home seller hires a listing broker, listing agent to list and sell their home, the seller agreed to pay a set commission, whatever that commission is, 4%, 5%, 4.5%, 6%. Again, there was never a set commission amount. The listing agent and the seller would agree how much of that total commission was going to be offered to the buyer's agent for bringing a buyer to your home, and if the home sells, that's how much the buyer's brokerage or buyer's agent was going to get paid. Here's where one of the biggest changes is going to take place as in real estate in general. listing agents will no longer be allowed to advertise the commission percentage or commission amount on the MLS service or the multiple listing service. Does this mean that buyers brokers can no longer make a commission? Absolutely not. We will still be able to make a commission working as a buyer's agent, but here's how it's going to change moving forward. The buyer's agent will find a listing. Actually, let's go back. Before a buyer's agent can actually meet with a buyer to start showing homes, the buyer's agent has to get the buyer to sign a buyer's brokerage agreement. And there's multiple ways we can do this. There's different time frames that we can sign an agreement with the buyer. We'll go a little bit over this later on in today's video about the buyer side of the changes. So moving forward, let's say that a buyer's broker, like myself, or a listing broker, whatever, has a buyer, and the buyer wants to see a home. Now, there's going to be more work involved for agents in general. We're going to have to pick up the phone on every single listing and call the listing broker and ask them, are your sellers willing to cooperate with brokers and pay a broker's commission? The one thing I'm not sure about is if they can state how much the seller is willing to pay. There's still some guidelines that I'm not even sure about. But moving forward, it's going to be a lot more work for agents in general to earn their commission. This will weed out a lot of the lazy agents, the part-time agents that really don't produce or do much in this business to begin with. So this is a good thing for seasoned vets like myself. But moving forward, the seller will list their home with a real estate company or listing agent. They're going to agree to pay the listing agent a set commission, whatever that set commission is, 2%, 3%, 2.5%. They can instruct their listing agent, which should be a conversation between the listing agent and the seller during the interview. Are you willing to contribute or pay a broker's fee to a buyer's broker? Or are you willing to pay money towards the buyer's closing costs if a buyer's broker brings a buyer and we have a successful closing? Moving forward from here is that the buyers agree in the buyer's brokerage agreement that they agree to pay that buyer's broker or the buyer's agent a commission, whatever they negotiate. It could be 1.5%, it could be 1.75%, it could be 2%, 3%. Again, now everything's negotiable. Buyers have to sign a brokerage agreement. Listing or sellers have to sign a listing agreement. There's going to be more transparency when it comes to this business. I think it should have been this way a long time ago. So moving forward, the buyer's agent will call the listing broker and ask them, are your sellers willing to cooperate and pay a buyer's brokerage commission, or are they willing to pay money towards my buyer's closing costs, which will then offset the commission that the buyer has to pay to the buyer's agent. It's confusing, but for us being seasoned real estate professionals, it's very simple. We do this on a daily basis. It's all negotiation at the end of the day. Now, let's talk a little bit about how this affects sellers both positively and negatively, and what buyers should consider when they go to sell their home. So how does this affect sellers moving forward with all the changes that are about to happen? First, there's going to be a lot more transparency on how the business works. So you're going to call a listing agent and you're going to interview probably multiple listing agents. Maybe you don't. The listing agent is going to give you options and go over what they charge or what they try to charge. Again, commissions are not set in stone. It's all negotiable. You get what you pay for at the end of the day. You as a seller has the right to say, I only want to pay this commission. What services will you provide for this commission amount? Will you work with me as my listing broker? The listing broker, listing agent can also say, absolutely not. That commission structure is too low for my time and my services. Thank you so much. Have a great day. I think what you're going to see is more sellers at the end of the day. They're going to think now that they're able to sell their home at the same price and walk away with more money while still having just as many buyers coming through their front door, knowing that they're not going to be offering or paying a buyer's brokerage commission. So that's one of the misunderstandings that I think a lot of sellers negatively are going to run into, and a lot of listing brokers or younger realtors that just want to get the listing because they're new to the business, you're going to find sellers' homes just sitting on the market. And if the listing agent doesn't educate you as a seller, saying, listen, this is what I would suggest, this is what your options, I would suggest that you still offer a buyer's brokerage commission, or you offer money towards the buyer's closing costs and prepaids, which will offset the buyer's commission that they have to pay the buyer's brokerage in the event that the seller does not offer compensation to the buyer's brokerage or buyer's agent. Sounds confusing, but it's not. That's why you hire real estate professionals to help negotiate both sides of the deal, the listing side or seller side and the buyer side. But in some cases, this is positive for sellers. Again, they have more options, and some sellers may get lucky enough, and I'm not saying they won't. I think some sellers will be, in certain markets, will be able to pay less commission up front to sell their home and still sell it for the same amount of money that they would have in the old system. And buyers will be like, hey, this is the only home available in this whole area. I want this home. I'm going to pay my buyer's brokerage, whatever their commission is, whatever they negotiated and agreed on, and it's a win-win for the seller. But in reality is, in a lot of cases, I don't think this is going to be the outcome for most sellers. It's going to be market-driven or market-related, how it affects sellers from one market to another. I think if you're in a lower price point in an area where the income levels are lower and the buyers are struggling to come up with their down payment, their closing costs, if they had to pay the buyer's agent commission on top of everything else, you're going to have less buyers in the market to buy homes in a lot of the areas. Now, we don't know how this is going to look, what the outcome is going to be. A lot of buyers are scraping pennies to close on a home in the current method that we do real estate business. So the minute you change it and the buyer's got to pay the commissions to the buyer's agent, it's going to be hard. So I think it'll affect the sellers positively and negatively, but at the end of the day, the sellers will have more options. They'll understand what they're working with and what options they really have. So let's talk a little bit about how this is going to affect buyers moving forward in order to buy a home. Now let's kind of do a recap real quick. So number one, moving forward, the old days of a buyer saying, hey, I'm a cash buyer, or I just got pre-qualified, I want to go look at homes, those days are over. Buyers nowadays are going to have to sit down with a buyer's agent or buyer's brokerage and sign a buyer's brokerage agreement. Again, there's a lot of variations how we can do this. A lot of buyer's agents are going to have to sign an agreement stating that they agree to pay the buyer's brokerage commission, whatever that commission amount is. Again, commission is going to be negotiable. The buyer's agents that can show their worth and their value are the ones that are going to succeed in this business moving forward. So buyers will have to agree. They have to sign the buyer's brokerage agreement in order for that buyer's agent to start showing them homes. We will not be allowed by law to just take buyers out randomly showing homes. That's one thing where a seasoned realtor or real estate agent, real estate broker will be able to show the buyer their true value and true worth and why they should hire them to help you buy a home. Now, a lot of buyers, I think what's going to happen with buyers is going to be, I barely have the money to pay the down payment. I barely have the money to foreclosing costs, and I already need money from the seller to cover my extra closing costs. Those buyers that don't have the extra 2% or 2.5% to pay on top of all the other expenses to a buyer's agent, a lot of them are going to forego and try to do this on their own. And what I see happening is a lot of contracts falling apart, buyers losing their escrow deposits, wasting money, because you have to understand, unless you do this for a living or you know an attorney that can handle the whole process for you, which is probably not going to be super cheap to begin with, the listing agent, if a buyer goes to a listing, the listing agent represents the seller. The listing agent's job is to negotiate the best terms and best price for the seller. They don't give a rat's ass about the buyer in general. They don't care about us as a buyer's agent. Their job is to get their seller the most money. They are going to make sure the terms on the contract benefit the seller, not the buyer. Where I see a lot of problems are buyers are going to go under contract. They're going to give an escrow deposit to a title company or an attorney, and they're going to forego representation with the buyer's agent or attorney because they can't afford it to begin with. And you're going to see a lot of buyers lose their deposits. They're going to waste time and money. I think we're going to see more contracts fall apart in general, because there's a lot more that goes into buying a home other than finding a home, making an offer, writing a contract, getting accepted. There's inspection periods. You have the wind mitigation report nowadays. You got the 4-point. There's so many other little details about buying a home and selling a home. And that's where an experienced real estate professional comes in handy. We've done this. We do this on a day-to-day basis. We know what to look for. Our job is to educate our buyers and sellers. Hey, we might want to worry about this, or we don't need to worry about this. Because at the end of the day, we want the deal to close too, but we want to make sure that the buyer or seller makes the best decision. So again, at the end of the day, I think buyers, for the most part, are going to be the most negatively affected in the transition period the way we do business. So here's my final take on what I expect moving forward with the real estate business. I've been in business for almost 20 years. I got licensed in 2004. I've seen every ups and downs in my 19, almost 20 years in business. The first thing we're going to see is there's going to be a very good transition period. It might be a 6-month transition period. It could be a year. Educating both buyers and sellers how the business is going to work. Sellers will always have the right to decide if they want to offer compensation to a buyer's brokerage if they bring a buyer and there's a successful closing. They also have the right to say, we don't want to offer anything. Sellers in most markets, not all markets. I know we're going to get comments on this video that says you're totally wrong, you don't know what you're talking about. Everybody has their opinions. I think in most markets where the sellers do not offer compensation to a buyer's agent, or they don't offer money towards the buyer's closing costs to offset the commission the buyer has to pay the buyer's agent, those markets are going to suffer some way or another. Either total sales will go down, the prices of the homes will go down, and the time frame or the days on market are going to be longer. So that's one takeaway for the selling side or the listing side. As for the buyer side, buyers are going to be hurt the most with these changes. Again, most buyers just don't have the extra 2.5% to pay a buyer's broker to represent them. Are buyers brokers and buyers agents going to agree to do the same work for much less money moving forward? I draw a line on how many clients I would be willing to work with as a buyer's agent if I was making that much less money for the amount of work that we have to do. You're going to find buyers go unrepresented. They're going to try to do this on their own. They're going to contact the listing agent. The listing agent's going to represent and look out for the seller's best interest, as stated earlier. The buyers are going to get hurt the most in the change. Maybe they do hire an attorney, right, to write a contract or to review an offer. You're going to see buyers miss out on opportunities because attorneys generally don't work Saturdays and Sundays, and they don't answer their phones after 5 p.m. This is where being a real estate professional and showing your value and knowledge to a seller or a buyer is going to win you the business. This is not a 9 to 5 or Monday to Friday 9 to 5 job. We sacrifice a lot. I work from about 7 a.m. to midnight most nights. I don't take any days off. Any of my clients that are watching this video will understand, and they'll admit, they'll probably comment on this video, that I answer their phone calls. I respond back every day of the week. So this is where buyers and sellers need to hire the best agents for that particular job. And again, buyers are going to be hurt the worst at the end of the day. So moving forward for me, it's going to be more about education. The greatest thing about YouTube is providing education and information to viewers just like yourself watching today's video. And if you made it to the end of today's video, I greatly appreciate it. If you liked the video, smash that like button, give this video a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so, subscribe to my channel so you get notified of more videos like this. But at the end of the day, moving forward for me as a real estate professional, a real estate broker, and owner of my own company, it's all about education and providing your clients with the best information so there's more transparency and there's no confusion moving forward on all real estate transactions. That wraps up today's video. I think this was a decent video. Leave comments what you thought. If you're new to my channel and you don't know who I am, my name is David Rogers. I am a licensed real estate broker here in Palm Beach County, Florida. I can help you with buying or selling real estate from Port St. Lucie down to Boca Raton. I love the opportunity to help you buying or selling real estate, and we'll see you on the next video. And also, all my contact information is down in the description below to reach out to me, and we'll see you on the next video.